What? Your Embor is missing? Well, I'm really sorry to hear that. Here, have a complimentary ham on me. Where'd I get it from? Don't worry about it, buddy. Happy Thanksgiving. Hey, what's good, Joe? Soul here, and welcome back to the story mode. So, I apologize, it has been a couple of days since I've last posted. You know how it goes when the holidays are coming up. But to those who celebrate, happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully, you guys had a phenomenal feast, ate good, and relaxed well. Hopefully, your parlays went through, and yada yada yada. I'm very thankful for all of you guys over the past couple of years that have been supporting me for as long as you have. You guys have no idea what you mean to me, and I hope to continue entertaining you for as long as humanly possible. That being said, and I'm still gonna be annoying about this, and I can't strain it enough, a very entertaining piece of media that I did put out a couple of weeks ago is my review to Pokemon Legends ZA. So, if you're wondering about any and all of my thoughts in regards to this game, I think it is probably in your best interest to go check that out. Link in my description again. I appreciate you guys. So, going forward with post-era Legends ZA, there's a good couple of things that a lot of us probably can't help but wonder about. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that by this time next year, we will have received the next major generational titles for Pokemon. And I think that it's very safe to assume that that game as well as Legends ZA were generally in development around the same time. Meaning that it's not entirely impossible for both of the teams working on either game to have cross-referenced each other a little bit. A little unlikely, probably, but not entirely impossible. And even if that doesn't happen to be the case for Generation 10 specifically, going forward, we could definitely reference more from Legends ZA. I think you get the general idea of what we're going to be talking about now, so why don't you go ahead, sit down, get cozy, grab a nice cold glass of maybe like Coke Zero or something. Do people drink that? I don't know. Go ahead, grab a plate, warm up those Thanksgiving leftovers, probably some alligator meat with some ranch and barbecue sauce mixed together for your dipping sauce, while we talk about what Legends ZA could potentially tell us about the future of modern Pokemon. Firstly, and I know there was probably not any ounce of doubt about this whatsoever, but I feel like it's probably just important to clarify that Legends is for certain its own dedicated series going forward. For whatever reason, there still seems to be a lot of confusion as to whether or not the Legends titles are mainline titles or spin-off titles. They are mainline. They are mainline Pokemon games. Yes, they operate and look very different from the traditional games that we're used to, but that is the entire point. This is one of the ways that Game Freak is going to be able to spread their legs a little bit, do something a little bit more unique with the series, get creative, get experimental, do things that the other games, the generational titles, are not allowed to do. And I do say not allowed, but what I mean is they're not gonna make such major changes that the generational titles are completely unrecognizable. They can't do that. They have the freedom to do that with the Legends titles. That's all I'm saying. Going forward, we're gonna be allowed to have insane mechanics. We're gonna be allowed to revisit stories from previous regions. We're gonna be allowed to see these characters grow up, develop, become even more than we thought ever possible for these NPCs. While I do have love for Kalos, I was never as attached to it as I would have liked to be growing up. Now, I feel a much stronger attachment to it than I ever thought possible. And at the time of this recording, we're still not even done with Kalos because we have an entire DLC that we're gonna get to delve into, so that's really exciting. But long and short of it is, I'm just very excited that this is only the beginning when it comes to the Legends games, and we have a lot more to look forward to in the future. No doubt about it. In a very similar vein, this tells us that they are no longer scared of making sequels of any kind. It was very strange growing up with Pokemon and not really being on the internet all that much until like my later years in life, and realizing that back in the day, people really did not mess with Pokemon Black and White and Black 2 and White 2. Well, that, or maybe it's because my generation was too young to have a voice or a platform to really speak about why those games are actually really good. Regardless, about a year or so ago, whenever that was, when we got that first major Terra leak from Pokemon, we saw a lot of information. And it was so long ago, I have to see if I could pull up the source, but I do recall them saying that after the release of Pokemon Black 2 and White 2, they were very nervous about ever doing something like a sequel again. I simply think it was just a bad timing situation when it comes to those releases, but regardless, we never saw another Black 2 or White 2 ever again. Until now, with what is essentially our equivalent of Pokemon Z. And I couldn't be more happy about the fact if I genuinely tried, because I'm so happy that they decided to go the sequel route with Legends, because again, I was completely wrong in my assumption that Legends games were going to exclusively take place in the past. Could not be farther from the truth, but again, I'm super happy about that. This opens up so many doors for so many possibilities, it's not even funny. Allegedly, Legends ZA was going to be a Johto-based title. That's crazy, but now that we have this, who's to say that we can't still have that inevitable Johto title? That could be the next Legends game for all we know. But even if that's not the case, I am absolutely not opposed to revisiting Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, whether it's in the distant past or the far future. There's just so much pre-established lore within the world of Pokemon that they have not fully tapped into yet, and I'm really excited for Legends to be that. Whether it's in the form of a prequel or a sequel, it doesn't matter. I'm happy to have it either way. After that, not that this one is necessarily guaranteed, but it seems a little more likely that going forward, the games are probably going to at least function properly from now on. I'm pretty sure that one thing a lot of people don't really understand is that extra year that they took of complete silence when it comes to Pokemon also likely applied to all of their other projects as well, because it wasn't just Legends ZA in development. We know that. And that was probably the only and best time that they could take to put in any extra time and hours that they could into whatever they're developing next, likely Generation 10 for 2026. But whatever the case may be when it comes to that, they had an extra year and they're working with much better hardware. Everybody has a lot of varying and valid opinions when it comes to Pokemon Legends ZA, but the one thing I think most of us can at least agree on, at least when it comes to the Switch 2 players, is that the game functions properly. Which I get is a very bare minimum thing and shouldn't be a problem that we should have to worry about for a AAA title $70 game, but unfortunately it is, which is why I'm bringing this up now. You have to remember that Pokemon Legends ZA is likely the last cross-generation game, which means that the next major Pokemon title is likely going to be Switch 2 exclusive. I don't think it's all that crazy to say that one of the major things that probably held Pokemon Legends ZA back from its graphical capabilities was the fact that they were cross-gen developing for it and they had to make sure that it ran smoothly on Switch 1 as well. And from the reports that I heard, it actually functioned pretty damn well. And if that's the case for Legends ZA, which was splitting their time like that, then I have to imagine that a fully dedicated Switch 2 title for Pokemon is probably gonna look and run at least a little bit better. Maybe I'm hoping, maybe I'm dreaming, but I really would like to believe that they took their own comments seriously when it came to the cadence of Pokemon releases. At bare minimum, it is more than fair for the consumer to expect a functioning game for something they're spending AAA title price on. If the actual next mainline title is going to be a good game overall, I can't say, I'm not going to speak on that yet. But right now, I think it's safe to say that those games are probably guaranteed to at least function properly, run at 60 frames, maybe even higher, and high resolution. That's all we can ask for. Textures are unfortunately optional when it comes to them apparently, so we'll have to see what happens with that. The next thing, and I'm only touching on this very briefly because we already talked about this in a dedicated video, but real-time battles do work very well for Pokemon. Now I'm going to clarify this once again because there are people that don't fully understand what's happening with that, but real-time battles are not replacing turn-based battles. The original concept of turn-based battles are way too ingrained in the mainline generational titles for those to be just completely eradicated. I would be genuinely shocked out of my mind if we did not get turn-based combat in Generation 10. But I can say with full confidence that it's not going anywhere. However, Legends ZA has more than proven that real-time battles work very well with Pokemon, hand in hand in fact, so much so that I wouldn't be shocked if going forward, the Legends titles decided to keep the real-time aspect. It was a weird situation because Legends Arceus looked like it really wanted to lean into more of a real-time aspect. Getting in and out of battle was so seamless in that game, it wouldn't be wrong to call that an action RPG. In the case of Legends ZA, they fully leaned into that idea and fully embraced it. And as much as I love the traditional formula that again isn't going anywhere, The series definitely needed some major shakeups, and this was one of those very things. So at the very least, I very much hope that going forward they lean more into it, develop it even more, perfect this formula, and truly allow the Legends games to have their own style so that they can really differentiate themselves from the mainline generational games. Next, delving more into more dedicated gameplay mechanics, even in open zone settings, trainers can be utilized perfectly fine. After Scarlet and Violet, I was a little worried because there was no way in hell we were ever going to step back from the open world formula when it came to the generational titles. Meaning that if that was truly the case, then a lot of the experience that we gain and all of the training that we're going to do in the overworld is going to be completely reliant on raid battles, because that is simply the best way to earn anything in those games. Having to go out of your way to hunt down trainers got really monotonous and even downright pointless after a certain point in time. And that really sucked because, again, I feel like the trainers are one of the most important aspects of Pokemon. However, thanks to the formula discovered in Legend ZA, we have found a way to make trainers work in open zone or open world settings. Imagine a situation in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet where you are running around the open world, just freely moving about. However, instead of the trainers being completely static and just yelling to get your attention, they're actively moving. They're actually walking around the open fields, waiting for you to show up, and they actually chase you so that they can fight. Now, obviously, I don't know if they could make the advantage or disadvantage thing work. I mean, they probably could, but that would be a lot of probably unnecessary work on their end. Honestly, though, as long as they can hunt you down and force you into a battle, I think that's for the best, right? One of the primary reasons that I think that trainers are important is because they used to serve as something of a skill check. You would battle the trainer nearest to the next town, you would get an idea of what you were going to be walking into because their levels likely reflected what was going to happen next. I guess that is a little bit of a moot point though when it comes to Scarlet and Violet, because we were able to quote unquote go in any order when it came to the gyms, so it didn't really matter at the end of the day. But regardless, the trainers were meant to prepare you to get you ready for the next major battle that you were going to encounter. So in the case of Legend ZA, I love the idea that they're actually wandering around, just scouting you out, just hungry, waiting to fight you. It made for a very intense atmosphere, something that Pokemon doesn't get as often as it should. One of the things that people liked most about Pokemon Sword and Shield was the fact that there was an actual audience in a stadium watching you battle every gym leader. The reason people liked it so much is because it actually showcased what Pokemon battling is for what it is. A sport that people around the world of Pokemon enjoy. However, the point is that it's a very competitive sport. And again, especially when it comes to the older titles, that's not something that's reflected very often. And I feel like Sword and Shield and Legend ZA did some of the best job of showcasing that competition. So I can only really hope that this time around, the teams did a better job of cross-referencing each other and seeing what worked and what didn't work when it came to whatever game that they were developing. And if that is the case, then my biggest hope is that one of the things that they primarily cross-referenced was how the trainers worked in an open zone setting, and that they apply that somehow to the next major generational titles, since those are likely to be open world. Because, you know, it obviously works, and I want it to work more. So that's where I stand with that. That kind of bleeds into my next point. They have definitely proven that a point-based progression system does kind of work. I have been absolutely enamored and in love with the concept of a point-based progression system since I saw how it worked in the anime. Which is why when they introduced to us the concept of the ZA Royale and how you were going to get through the game, I was beyond ecstatic. I don't want to delve too much into it because I do want to have a full dedicated discussion on this very topic. Generally speaking though, as much as I do enjoy the gym-based progression system, I think we do need some changes in that department. And I truly do believe that ZA has shown us a shakeup that can work in modern Pokemon titles, period, going forward. I personally feel like one of the best ways we could do this is to blend the point-based progression with the championship finale tournament style that we had in Sword and Shield. And I say that because that is precisely how it worked in the anime, and I feel like it would be a lot more interesting if we did it like that in the games as well. And maybe this is just a me thing, but especially in Scarlet and Violet, there was just something about the Elite Four and the champion battles that felt so dated, because you could tell that they tried their best to make it so that these characters were a little more interesting by introducing them to us in the midst of our journey in Scarlet and Violet, but at the same time, we knew what it was leading to, we knew who these characters were, and it just felt so out of place by the end. Anyways, I digress. I really like the way that this system worked in Legend ZA and would love to see this more thoroughly fleshed out in future titles. Next along, and this one could also be kind of a moot point given the situation we were put in, but I think it's possible for customization to continue improving from this point on. I say moot point in this particular situation again because we thought this was going to be the case after Sword and Shield, and it was the exact opposite. One could definitely argue that the customization in Legends Arceus was good, and I wouldn't argue with that. I just think that the problem there was that it suffered from the same situation as Scarlet and Violet, in which the context of the game completely limits how you can design yourself. However, thankfully, in the case of Legends ZA, that is not the case. It's not perfect by any means, but it is easily the best customization we have ever had in a Pokemon game. And I really do pray that going forward, this serves as something of a basis of what we're capable of doing in future titles. Being able to blend different colors with your hairstyle, being able to have different overshirts and coats and stuff like that with different shirts, mixing and matching socks and shoes and things like that is amazing. Amazing freedom to have. And I genuinely believe that having anything less than what we're rocking here would be absolutely criminal. Aside from that, and this kind of plays into what I was saying earlier with the whole sequel situation, but generally speaking, it seems like stories can get more interesting and a little deeper, surprisingly, even without a primary, like, comically evil antagonist. It feels like it's been a while since we've had like a true looming antagonist, right? I mean, granted, technically Rose was an antagonist and so was Volo, but at the same time, again, it's not as direct and in your face as like Cyrus was, or Giovanni or something like that. But that's the thing, Scarlet and Violet and Legend ZA have proven to have very awesome stories even without the presence of a direct antagonist in that style. And while part of me definitely does want that real antagonistic force back in these mainline titles, I think it's okay to also have situations like this in which we're still telling a story and something still needs to be stopped, but it's for a different situation other than, oh yeah, the world needs to be cleansed or erased or something like that, like we usually have. And don't get it twisted, I definitely believe that Pokemon could still use some work in the writing department and fleshing out its characters and having actual arcs and things like that. But for what we have, I really like the stories that they've been presenting to us for the last couple of years. And I hope going forward, we can add some of those elements. Next to that, it seems that they might have kind of learned that a little more time and a bigger budget of any kind can help boatloads. I feel like a lot of people can at least agree that Pokemon Legends ZA is generally a higher quality game than Scarlet and Violet. Obviously not by as wide of a margin as we would have liked, but it is. And it kind of shows because they gave that team an extra $1 million over what Scarlet and Violet had, so they had a little bit more to work with. When it comes to the AAA space, 12 to 13 million is not a lot at all. For example, you have something like Square Enix putting down damn near 200 million to make something like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. And that quality shows. Those are massive, meaty games that look beautiful. That's because the team had the proper time and budget to develop. So when you compare that to something like Legend ZA, which only had like, what, 3 years of development maybe with a $13 million budget, that's nothing. Now, based on the Giga Leak that we got a couple of months ago, the next set of games are projected to have a budget of around 30 million, which again, for a AAA title game is pretty damn small, but it's still a massive leap from whatever they were working with Scarlet and Violet, and that in of itself is already a dream come true. Now, in the case of Generation 10 specifically, I feel like time is definitely not going to be on their side. I just really hope that doesn't reflect in the development of the game, because we're getting something for the 30th anniversary. There's no doubt about that. But hopefully we get some quality that we have not seen in a Pokemon game before, and we could really start upping the budget on games going forward, because I think most of us can agree that we deserve better than microscopic budgets for AAA title games that we're paying full price for, right? Sorry to sound like a broken record, but I think that's fair, that if you're expecting us to shell out, you gotta invest more. There's nothing crazy about that. That being said though, I think that just about does it for a lot of what Legends EA tells us about the future, or at least the potential future, when it comes to modern Pokemon. Growing up a Sonic fan, I've gotten very tired of the whole situation in which we take very little steps in the right direction, but everything surrounding it is like 12 steps back. We need to continue doing better and growing and improving with these games, especially with gaming becoming much more expensive. It's getting a little hard out here to justify what we're paying for, you know, these games. And I really want them to do better, and I really hope that going forward we can get that quality that we really deserve. And I pray that Generation 10 with that $30 million budget can give us something of quality. But hey, you know what? Maybe that's just me. So that just about does it for this one. This one has been in progress for the last 2 days, and before anybody asks, yes, I do know about Mega Lucario Z, and I like the design. I know a lot of people are not fond of the Hatsune Miku design, and as somebody that does not care about Hatsune Miku in the slightest, I think it looks kind of rad. I can't even front with you, right? So I like it. And hopefully we continue getting even more Mega Evolutions for the DLC, which is basically like a week away at the time of this recording. So yeah, prep up, guys. We got some work to do, but I'm a skedaddle on this way, but I'm gonna need y'all to take that mic from me real quick, and I want you guys to tell me everything that you're thinking in the comment section below. Do you agree with what I've said here? Do you think that with Legends EA showcasing what it showcased, we could see a lot of improvements in the future of Pokemon? That extra year did wonders, and we could see some true improvement with the games going forward, maybe with bigger budgets and things like that. We could see some higher quality coming from Pokemon Team and Pokemon Company, or Game Freak, I mean, I don't know, Pokemon Team. I'm thinking Sonic Team. Or are we on the opposite side? Are we delusional in thinking we could ever improve? Pokemon's just never going to get better, and we're always going to get mediocre stuff, and we should expect nothing more. Tell me everything that you're thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I'm always going to be down there with you guys. But with that, it does appear to be skedaddle o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and do just that. I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm gone. So thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye. Like this, like switch, like this, priceless, like this, like switch, like this, priceless, hit the light switch if you need a light switch, like this, right quick for the